Okay, it's a Thursday. That means we talk travel, courtesy of our friends at Flight Centre. And Andrew Stark joins us once again in the studio. Nice to have you with us again, Andrew.
Thank you, Jeremy.
You were talking just before we started with this topic about how resilient the bookings are right now. Tell us about that, because that's good news.
It's great news. I mean, I think the world of pain we've been living in over the last week, I think we're looking for any green shoots.
Yeah.
And the green shoots that we are seeing is the South Africans are resilient, and thankfully they're still actually booking travel. And what we are seeing is that they're not booking obviously for now, but they're booking for October, November, December. Obviously they're booking package type holidays, and obviously looking at cruising and anything to potentially get out of South Africa for a period. So I think, you know, again, whilst it's been a traumatic week for all South Africans, there are a few green shoots, and travel seems to be one of them, you know.
Well, as you say, it does show the resilience and almost positive attitude of South Africans going forward. People going, you know what? I reckon by October, November, December, things are going to be they're going to be a lot different to where we are now.
Yeah, and I think what sort of pushed this in that direction as well is that the vaccination program for 35-year-olds plus has certainly kicked in. Everyone registered. I got my vaccine on Friday. You know, standing in the queue, and thanks to Diskim and the team. But government pushed something out on the 16th saying, yes, go stand in queues, get vaccinated, be 35 plus. So that certainly created a good atmosphere for it. And if I think about it, you know, we've got family and friends that live overseas like most South Africans do, and we're only 45 days behind Germany. If you think about it, Germany, my sister, similar age, she's getting her second shot, but that's 45 days behind us.
Yeah.
So actually, through all the pain that we're in for, we're not that far behind the rest of the world. And I think South Africans see that as a real positive. They're saying 45 days from now, we're looking at the end of August, beginning of September, we open. We can start traveling when we've been double vaccinated.
I think the other thing that's fast-tracked this as well is that you would find that your 35 plus age group people are savvy with handsets, computers, all the rest of it. They know how to register. They know how to get onto the systems. They know what to do. And they're also the people who I would reckon are in the demographic of the traveler as well, and the family traveler.
Absolutely. 35 plus across all our segmentations, be it cruising, be it tours, be it flights, that's the economy. Yeah. That's the driver of the economy. And I think it's fantastic news that our vaccination program is leapfrogging, even through all the disaster we had this week. We've actually managed to get that back on track. And can we get to 300,000 people vaccinated on a daily basis? Today. We do that, we get 50% of our population vaccinated by December, which I think bodes well for travel domestically, but also international inbound and outbound, which we desperately need right now.
Okay, now you've mentioned one word twice already in this conversation, cruising. And I believe you actually should be coming in more and more often, because every time you come here, you happen to bear with you good news. The last time you were in the Mansfield Today studio, we officially announced through Beachcomber that Mauritius was opening up. I'm sure you guys had a huge reaction to that. And you now have a friend of ours on Zoom who's going to tell us a bit more about cruising and what's happening in that field. So go ahead. I don't want to introduce Ross because there's some things I could say and that get him into trouble.
Look, hopefully every 2 weeks I'm in, and we can have some really good news to share with our listeners and our viewers. But yeah, we try and do that, Jeremy. I think we look for these green shoots as South Africans. But I was recently away with Ross. He kindly took us away for a bit of a retreat in the bush as travel industry leaders, and we sat down and said, how do we stimulate travel? And how do we stimulate travel sustainably and in a very safe manner over the next couple of months and years? And with that, Ross has really got some exciting news around, what's happening in the cruising space. And I thought he's be a great person to bring on and talk to about cruising, both domestically, but then also from a Mediterranean and a Caribbean perspective as well, which Ross can talk us through on. But yeah, we've got Ross, MSC, a very good partner of Flight Centres for a very long time. Ross, welcome.
Thanks so much, Andrew, and thanks, Jeremy. Very nice to see both of you and a privilege to be on board. So thanks a lot for the opportunity.
You go ahead, because I've also got questions. Okay. We're both ready to start throwing it at Ross.
So Ross, I think for a lot of the viewers is what's happening in the cruise industry, and when do we think cruising is going to open, and what's it all going to look like?
So I think the million-dollar question is when it's going to open, and I think that from a South African perspective is still in the hands of the government, but we're working very, very strongly with them on a start date, and we're aiming for the 18th of November, which is the provisional start date of our cruise season for winter 21, well, not winter, sorry, our summer season 21-22. Globally, we obviously have 7 vessels active at the moment, doing really well in North Europe, the Med, and out of the UK. And we look to start our US operations on the 3rd of August. And also one of our new programs in the Red Sea as well from sort of sometime in the middle of August, we'll commence with those operations. So globally very positive, and obviously even from a South African perspective, you mentioned a lot about the booking trends. You mentioned a lot about the positivity of people wanting to travel, and I think that's very evident in the South African psyche. We're a country and a nation that's very resilient. We want to get out, we want to travel, and people want to go and book and get best value for money. And I think a cruise is best placed for that later in the year. Obviously safely. So our protocols are world class. We've come out with something since last year, August, that's carried tens of thousands of people safely, even through some very difficult periods in Europe from August last year.
Ross, let's just look at the South African market. And when I say the South African market, the local cruises that MSC offers. If you are looking at sort of 18 November as a date, and people are booking for those cruises. If you can't open up in time for that, are you looking at making alternative arrangements around bookings for your clients?
Yeah, so as we've done since March last year, we've vouchered people for 3 years so that they can utilize that voucher for 3 years. And we're looking to protect as much their investment as anything possible, and also the integrity of the holiday for each of our guests. So there will be a plan in place. We'll discuss with the guests close to the time if something can't happen, but we're strongly working towards the 18th of November restart.
Ross, again, $1 million question from a lot of South African travelers is: will I need to be vaccinated or fully vaccinated in order to on board one of your ships?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I think there's a lot of differing views amongst not only cruise companies but organizations globally. Our global philosophy, and it was espoused by our chairman on the weekend in a press conference he had in Italy, is that we feel that if you are only allowing vaccinated people, you're going to preclude families from going on holiday, because under 18s can't be vaccinated at present around the world. So our stated policy at present, subject to obviously local government requirements, is that you do not have to be you don't have to be vaccinated to enjoy a cruise. If you are, that's great. If you're not, you're still welcome on board. There'll still be protocols in place. There'll still be testing, which can prevent any sort of outbreaks or anything like that. So we're not looking at fully vaccinated people only going on, because we feel that from a family business perspective, it would be anti-families to stop people from traveling with under 18s that haven't been vaccinated. So that's kind of the ethos behind the philosophy.
You say that you've opened up the international side of it, and it's going very well, and it's been proven to be safe. But how many, realistically, right now, how many of those destinations can South Africans get to?
So I think the comment was around the fact that these vessels are open for Europeans predominantly. So the UK cruise vessel Virtuosa is only available for UK passengers at the present moment in time. That's subject to government regulations. The US has specific regulations that they're busy rolling out and will be available at the beginning of August. You're quite right, Jeremy, in terms of the sort of restrictions that are placed on South Africans is more European based in terms of having to serve quarantine or not being allowed to travel because we're on a red list. So at the moment, the international destinations are not as available to South Africans, but hopefully once we become more vaccinated, we'll start to fall off many of those red lists and you can then access those cruise vessels and those cruise destinations.
One of the things, and I've done a fair amount of cruising around the world with quite a few of the cruise liners. One of the things, and I think, Ross, it's probably one of your biggest selling points, is that when you go on a cruise, that's it. You're not wasting time moving from town to town and having to wait in an airport and catch a flight and then get to a hotel and unpack your suitcase. You get on board a ship, you unpack your suitcase, and that's it. You're there. You're done.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about cruising, is that you have your home away from home, and that's it. Whether it's for 18 days or whatever, you're sorted.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to just, from a logistics perspective, everything's sorted for you. Your food, your entertainment, your excursions are all booked and pre-booked. You can obviously go pre-COVID on your own excursion, and hopefully once fully vaccinated passengers, once we reach a situation where COVID is no longer an issue, we get to a stage where you can do that again. So for me, it's also a very simple kind of environment to get on board, unpack once, and go to a lot of destinations in a short space of time. If you looked at the cost of doing that via just your own simple hotels and aircraft, it would be quite costly. But from a cruise perspective, it makes it very cost effective.
And I think we've seen that domestically. Hey, Ross, correct me if I'm wrong, but South Africans have loved the fact that they unpack once, and they can probably use their passports, into Mozambique or Mauritius or any of the cruises that you do to, outside of the country. And it's seen as an international, whilst it's domestic, and it's seen as an international holiday. And that's what South Africans are really aspiring to do more of.
I think South Africans are a wonderful, jovial population. We enjoy the sort of outdoors. We enjoy having some fun, partying up a storm. We won't mention certain sort of proclivities around alcohol and lockdown, but at the end of the day, South Africans are fun-loving people, and the opportunity to go on board a ship that goes 3 or 4 nights to Mozambique is a getaway. Many cases, it's a dream country to travel internationally, and you get to use your passport. It's a short, wonderful break that encompasses everything that South Africans enjoy.
Yeah, which probably leads me to the question I know Jerry's going to ask us both, is when is Mansfield today going to have an inaugural cruise on the MSC out of Durban for a night or two?
It's funny, Ross, it's funny that Andrew says that, because one of the things I was going to say at the end of when we're wrapping up the show is, Andrew, shouldn't we put together a Flight Centre Mansfield Today cruise out of Port of Durban?
I'm going to give a little bit of insight into something that I've been trying to look at since the beginning of lockdown. And I think, if I talk a little serious for the moment, South Africans have endured a hell of a lot over the last 15 months, and especially in the last week. But what we have shown is that we stand together and that we're incredibly good as a unit. So one of the things that I have looked, subject to COVID regulations and everything like that, is I'd actually like to start the cruise season with some kind of celebration. And the philosophy behind that is to try and engage as many artists as possible that have not had work over the last 15 months because events don't happen, looking at having those people on board, encompassing all the demographics of South Africa, so that we can really welcome people in the Rainbow Nation fashion and celebrate something positive rather than looking at the negativity of the COVID pandemic. So as soon as we can, in terms of the COVID regulations, and we're doing it safely, we can look at doing something along those lines. So definitely, Jim, I would like to have you involved in that, because I think that you encompass a lot of what South Africa looks at in terms of being resilient and enjoying life.
Well, we're in. Here I am speaking on behalf of the Flight Centre.
Well, Flight Centre has been a phenomenal partner of ours, and they're an incredible organization. I mean, Andrew's also a great leader. We spend a lot of time talking about what we do with travel over the last couple of months. And I've been, really impressed with the way in which Andrew's run his business and the way Flight Centre's tackled the COVID pandemic. So, I think you definitely be involved.
Good one. And that's where we'll leave it for today. Ross, thank you very much for joining us. Andrew, nice to have you in the studio again.
You, Jeremy.
And some great offers we're running there on the ticker tape. And you've got the details on the ticker tape as well as to how to get hold of Flight Centre and start sniffing around and seeing what bargains you can pick up, not only on cruising, but on a whole lot of other things as well. Until we catch up with travel next week, Thursday, once again, thank you very much for joining us, and cheerio.